Welcome everybody. Shabbat Shalom. I'd like to welcome everyone who's new to my channel and everyone that's been here for a while. Thank you for watching my videos. So today is a day where we spend time with our family and we read the words of the Creator and our ancestors to help us stay away from war. A lot of things like building. But I'm gonna just read a couple pages. I just wanted to say Shabbat Shalom, and hoping all my family, and I pray all my family out there is doing well. Alright. So I want to get into the history of the American Indians by James Adair. That's argument 12. So it goes on. Like the Jews, the greatest part of the southern Indians abstain from most things that are either in themselves or in the general apprehension of mankind loathsome or unclean. Where we find a deviation from the general rule among any of them it is a corruption, either owing to their intercourse with Europeans or having contracted an ill habit from necessity. They generally affix very vicious ideas to the eating of impure things, and all of their prophets, priests, old warriors, and war chieftains before they enter on their religious duties, and while they are engaged in them, observe the strictest abstinence in this point. Formerly, if any of them did eat in white people's houses, or even of what had been dressed there, while they were sanctifying themselves, it was deemed a dangerous sin of pollution. When some of them first corrupted their primitive virtue by drinking of our spirituous liquors. So once we started drinking spirits, the hearts. You know how it went. Come on. The religious spectators called it ukahome, bitter waters, alluding, I conjecture, to the bitter waters of jealousy. And isn't that what happens? You start getting jealous. That produce swelling and death to those who committed adultery. And what do? You get loose. You want to have sex. You end up committing adultery, having sex with somebody else's wife, or somebody else's wife having sex with you. I mean, you having some woman having sex with somebody's husband. And what does this create? Strife. Okay? But had no power over the innocent. That this name is not accidental, but designedly pointed and expressive of the bitter waters of God, seems obvious, not only from the image they still retain of them, but likewise when any of them refuse our invitation of drinking spirituous liquors in company with us. They say, Ahekshkolo awa oka ho'ome isto. I will not drink. They are the bitter waters of the great one. Do isto. And isn't what they said in the King James, but you're gonna call him this, and then later you call him Ishi. And what did the people living in this region of America? Isto. I don't know, but we'll see. One of the names of God, subjoined to nouns, denotes a superlative degree. In this case, they deviate from the general rule. And for this reason, they never affix the idea of bitter to the spirituous liquors we drink among them. Ho'ome, the only word they have to convey the meaning of bitter, as ane ho'ome, bitter ears, or pepper. They reckon all birds of prey and birds of night to be unclean, and unlawful to be eaten. What we don't understand is that we just think these are just rules in a book, but these have knowledge behind the rules, because those birds can see dead prey from high. So they come down and they scavenge this, and the worms are then transferred. All the bacteria is then transferred. So if you eat these birds, you can die. You can have parasites. Many amount of things can happen, just like eating oysters, shellfish, but worse. Okay, where we going? Alright. Not long ago, when the Indians were making their winter's hunt and the old women were without flesh meat at home, I shot a small fat hawk and desired one of them to take and dress it. But though I strongly importuned her by way of trial, she as earnestly refused to it for fear of contracting pollution, which she called the accursed sickness. Supposing disease would be the necessary effect of such an impurity. Eagles of every kind they esteem unclean food, likewise ravens. Though the name of the tribe was with them, crows, buzzards, swallows, bats, and every species of owls, and they believe that swallowing flies, mosquitoes, or gnats always breed sickness or worms. That's why we always made sure our rivers were flowing, always flowing, because if the mosquitoes cannot birth in rapid water and moving water. So we never had mosquitoes. That's why the first thing they did when they came to our homes was destroy the river sources so that the river doesn't flow in parts of the areas, especially in the parts that they wanted to build. And what happened? They created laws. They terraformed the land because of those mosquitoes, which are still here. And I ain't got no water. Alright, so according to the quantity that goes into them, which though it may not imply extraordinary skill and physique, shows the retention of the ancient law, which prohibited the swallowing of flies. For to this that divine sarcasm alludes, swallowing a camel and straining at a gnat. Such insects were deemed unclean, as well as vexations and hurtful. The god of Ikran was Beelzebub, or the god and ruler of flies. None of them will eat any of the animal whatsoever, if they either know or suspect that it died of itself. Right? Isn't that our way? Isn't that an indigenous way? I gotta see, we raised seeing everything European. But look at it in your European, in your indigenous eyes, and not your European viewpoints. Stop trying to connect it to the European mind state. Connect it to your indigenous values and history. And you'll see it just, they're talking about us. This is our history. Perverted. I lately asked one of them of the woman the reason of throwing a dunghill fowl out the doors on the corn house. She said that she was afraid. Oofi abeeka haksit ile. It died with the distemper of the mad dogs, and that if she had eaten it, it would have affected her in the very same manner. See, this is why when they came to our lands, we didn't have diseases, we didn't have illnesses, because we had the medicine and we didn't do the things that we do today that gives us those diseases. We stood far from unclean foods and we practiced medicine. it died. I said, if so, she did well to save herself from danger. But at the same time, it seems she had forgotten the cat. She replied that such impure animals would not contract the accursed sickness on the account of any evil thing they eat, but that the people ate of the flesh of the swine that fed on such polluted food would certainly become mad. In the year 1766, a madness seized the wild, and that's what we are today. We're mad. You go to Whole Foods, you ain't got this stuff, this kind of behaviors. But you go to Popeyes, you go to Jack in the Box, McDonald's, and you see this stuff going on all over the place. Come on. I was raised off that food. Come on. A madness seized the wild beast in the remote woods of West Florida, and about the same time the domestic dogs were attacked with the like distemper. The deer were equally infected. The Indians in their winter's hunt found several lying dead, some in helpless conditions and others fierce and mad. But though they are all fond of increasing the number of deerskins, both from emulation and for profit, yet none of them did. Cursed animals. But what it was they was polluted. Somebody went biologically damaged them with biological weapons, and we didn't understand. We knew to stay away, and that's why we still here today. That's why we still here today, because our ancestors and the Creator made it so. Lest they should pollute themselves and thereby incur bodily evils. The head man of the camp told me he cautioned one of the Hotoke Hakse, who had resided a long time at Savannah, from touching such deer, saying to him, Chehaksina, do not become vicious and mad, for Ise Hakset Elet Taha, the deer were mad and are dead, adding that if he acted the part of Hakse, he would cause both himself and the rest of the hunting camp to be spoiled. Nevertheless, he shut his ears against his honest speech and brought those dangerous deerskins to the camp. But the being Haksi by a sharp splintered root of a cane running almost to his foot, near the very place where he first polluted himself, and he was afraid some worse ill was still in wait for him. In 1767, the Indians were struck with a disease which they were unacquainted with before. Biological weapon. Sorry, I'm not trying to put any hand signals. My bad. Biological weapons. That's what it was. Which they were unacquainted with before. It began with sharp pains in the head at the lower part of each of the ears. I just get excited. And swelled the face and throat of the very extraordinary manner, and also the testicles. It continued about a fortnight, and in the like space the time went off gradually, without any dangerous consequence or use of the outward or inward remedies. They called it Waka Abeka. Waka Abeka. The cattle's distemper or sickness. Some of the young men have by stealth killed and eaten a few of the cattle which the traders had brought up, and they imagined they had thus polluted themselves and were smitten in a strange manner, by having their heads, necks, and magnified like the small parts of a sick boot. They first concluded either to kill all the cattle or send them immediately off their land to prevent the like mischief or greater ills from befalling the beloved people. For their cunning old physicians or prophets would not undertake to cure them. So they said they're not going to try and cure them, for they might get cursed, or the disease, which we would just say curse, but we understand more, right? What things mean. In order to inflame the people to execute the former resolution, being jealous of encroachment and afraid the cattle will spoil their open cornfields, upon which account, the traders' arguments had no weight with these red Hebrew philosophers. But fortunately, one of their head warriors had a few cattle soon presented to him, the red man, to keep off the wolf, and his reasoning proved so weighty as to alter their resolution and produce in them a contrary belief. They reckon all those animals to be unclean, that they are either carnivorous or live on nasty food, as hogs, wolf, panthers, foxes, cats, mice, rats, and if we accept a bear, they deem all beasts of prey unhallowed and polluted food. The law, the dietary laws. Come on, people. All amphibious quadrupeds, they rank in the same class. Our old traders remember when they first began the custom of eating beavers, and to this remember they when they first began the custom of eating beavers, and to this did they not eat of them, except those who kill them, though the flesh is very wholesome on account of the bark of the trees they live upon. It must be acknowledged they are all degenerated apace, insomuch that the Choctaw Indians, on account of their scantiness of ammunition, while they traded with the French, took to eat horse flesh, and even snakes of every kind, though each of these species and every sort of reptiles are accounted by the other neighboring nations impure food in the highest degree. So, like we said, people in the Bible was not following the law and doing their own thing. People in America was not following the law and doing their own thing. I mean, what's hard to believe that the things they say that happen in the East actually happened in the Americas, in Turtle Island, and that they just took our indigenous stories and made it European. And they ridicule the Choctaw for the cannibals' apostasy, and term in them common speech the evil, ugly Choctaw. They abhor moles so exceedingly that they will not allow their children even to touch them, for fear of hurting their eyesight. Reckoning and contagious, they believe that nature is possessed of such a property as to transfer into men and animals the qualities either of the food they use or those objects that, see, if you know anything about what the Europeans is doing with gene research, they'll tell you, Dr. Sebi will tell you, that we are what we eat. Why do we have this saying, you may ask? Because when we take in anything, whether it be food, there is a genetic transfer, and we take on some of the genes of whatever we are taking in, right? So when they say you gain the qualities of whatever animal food you're eating, it's because that's why a lot of these animals you shouldn't eat. Not only could you get sick, but your mentality, your behavior would change. And what happens to us today? We eat synthetic food, processed food, all this food that's not good for you, all this food that was against our dietary laws, and how do we behave? Come on now. Hood in America and a hood in Hawaii is the same shit. It's an Afro-Asiatic reservation where they put foreigners in there and integrate with you. Come on now. Same shit goes down. either the food they use or the objects that is presented to their senses. He who feeds on venison is, according to their physical system, swifter and more sagacious than a man who lives on the flesh of the clumsy bear or helpless dunghill fowls. The slow-footed tame cattle or the heavy wallowing swine. This is the reason that several of them old men recommend and say that formerly their greatest chieftains observed a constant rule in their diet, and seldom ate of any animal of a gross quality or heavy motion of body. And what do we eat today? Pigs that's being fed by candy and steroids. Cows the same. Heavy motion of body. We eating all these animals and we wonder why we're getting what they call connect attack, food paralysis. Come on now. This is the reason. Fancy it conveyed a dullness through the whole system and disabled them from exerting themselves with proper vigorous in their martial, civil, and religious duties. I've already shown their aversion to eating of unsanctified fruits, and in this argument they abstain from several other things. Alright, well, we're gonna have to get out of here. I'll be back with the rest. Alright, Shabbat Shalom. Enjoy your family. All love.